Henry Box Brown was born enslaved in Richmond, Virginia. He was born in 1815, but like most slaves, is not aware of the exact date of his birth. At 15, he started as a slave at a tobacco plantation. His owner was John Barrett, a former Richmond mayor. He was said to be among the hardest workers at the plantation. For his hard work, he was not rewarded, but he was rarely ever beaten or punished. His wife and children were located at a plantation right next to his. After his wife became pregnant with their fourth child, his family was sold to another plantation in North Carolina. Henry was known to be a big family man, and the thought of being separated from his family made him really sad. He felt helpless to save them. After months of formulating a plan, he finally knew his way to escape. He was very religious, and through his faith and courage, he pursued his plan. Henry got the help of his friend, James Caesar Anthony Smith, who knew Samuel Alexander Smith, a white sympathizer. Samuel Smith was a gambler, so for profit, he agreed to ship Henry Brown. His plan was to ship himself from Richmond, Virginia, to Philadelphia. James Smith contacted his friend James Miller McKim, who was a part of the abolitionist movement and the Philadelphia Anti-Slavery Society. The box was to be shipped to him. Samuel Smith shipped Henry through the Adams Express Company on March 23, 1849. He was shipped in a 3 by 2 foot box, and the box was sent in the dry goods category. The inside of the box was lined with a thin cloth layer. He was provided with a small amount of water, a couple of biscuits, and a little hole in the side to breathe. He traveled in various different ways. He traveled by railroad, steamboat, ferry, and wagon, all the way to Philadelphia. The trip took 27 hours and was brutal. He was dropped off at the Philadelphia Anti-Slavery Society before daybreak. Henry claimed he was close to death multiple times due to the box being roughly handled and upside down for long periods of time. Once he arrived, he said, "I was thus relieved from a state of agony which may be more imagined than described." Once he got out of the box, he recited a prayer. Samuel Smith was caught being involved with Henry's escape and sentenced to 6.5 years in the state penitentiary. James Smith, who was the other man involved in the shipping of Henry, was also caught but fared off a lot better than Samuel. His story was posted all over newspapers and became very popular. Henry gained an immense amount of attention for his crazy strategy of escape and used his fame to create a better and new life in the North. In September of 1849, his narrative was published, and that only added to the publicity this man had received. In May of 1849, he was in attendance for the New England Anti-Slavery Convention. There he left the audience in awe and really persuaded them to understand that all enslaved people in America desired freedom. He later created a panorama film describing the life of a slave that was shown throughout Boston that following summer. On August 30th, 1850, the Fugitive Slave Act was passed. That meant staying in the northern free states was not safe for Henry, because he could be taken back to Virginia as a slave. So, he decided to leave his family and move to England in search for freedom in October of 1850. He was heavily criticized for that in America. He lived in England for the next 25 years, making a living in that show business. In England, he remarried and had a daughter, but once it was safe to do so, he eventually moved back to America with his new family. He picked up right where he left off in America and continued to provide and support for his family. His last performance was in Ontario, Canada. After that point, Henry's later life is unknown. His location and date of his death is also unknown. But one thing that he made known he is a symbol of the Underground Railroad freedom and a key factor in the abolitionist movement.